for joining us as we begin this Labor Day weekend. And as I said, I wish we were brought together under better circumstances. But we're here because the Virginia Republicans have assaulted Virginians' right to vote again with their latest political stunt to hold Governor McAuliffe in contempt of the Virginia Supreme Court order on the restoration of rights, and yesterday their proposed amendment to permanently marginalize an entire class of Virginians. This lawsuit and the amendment is motivated by the desire to keep people from participating in our democracy. The lawsuit is being executed by a fancy right-wing law firm, and this amendment is one of the most deceitful political actions we've seen from Virginia Republicans. I've been around in Virginia politics for a while now. This is the most cynical and mean-spirited attack against human dignity and democracy itself. This fight to restore voting rights is about ending a dark chapter in our Commonwealth's history to which Republicans fight tooth and nail to preserve. As you already know, Virginia is one of only 4 states that still permanently disenfranchises felons unless a governor restores their rights. That's shameful. But could you imagine if Senator Norman's amendment passes, making Virginia the only state in the country that permanently disenfranchises a class of Virginians? It's a disgrace, it's wrong, and it's a blatant attempt on the right to vote. It goes without saying that their partisan motivations are on full display for all of Virginia to see. I'm going to end with this. Thank God for our Governor, Terry McAuliffe. No one is more dedicated to making sure these individuals have the right to vote. These folks who have had their rights restored have been demonized by Virginian Republicans. They have been shut out. They have been made to feel as though they aren't worthy of participating in our democracy. Governor McAuliffe has been there every step of the way to refute their dangerous and divisive rhetoric, and he's not going to stop fighting for them and their right to vote. That's the Terry McAuliffe way, and quite frankly, it's due time for it to become the Virginia way. Now, I'd like to turn it over to Congressman Bobby Scott.
Thank you, Susan, and thank you for your work, and thank the governor for his advocacy on making sure more people can vote. We have a situation where people have paid their debt to society, as you've indicated, in just about every other state. They have the right to participate, rejoin society and participate, and it's been found that the restoration of rights can actually reduce crime. When you bring people back into society, they're less likely to commit future crimes. If you demonize them, then it's just not helpful. Let me just talk about some of the details of this particular proposal, because under the proposal, it seems like you're making a step forward, but actually under the proposal, people like Bernie Madoff could get their rights restored. On the other hand, a college kid who got into a bar fight would never be able to get their rights restored ever. 50, 60 years old, still can't vote. There's another little twist to this, and that is that the violent and nonviolent is a fuzzy line. Traditionally in Virginia, a drug violation would be a violent offense. That means somebody who got caught with a little drug in college would never be able to vote, where people are ripping people off can certainly get their rights restored. These people have paid their rights to society and need to be able to vote. The governor's the amendment would require that nonviolent, even those that could qualify under this thing, would have to pay all court fees, costs, fines, and everything else before they can have their rights restored. If you served a little time in jail, by the time the interest has increased, the fines, costs for a court-appointed attorney and everything else, that could be significant, and you could be paying on the fine, but it may take you a long time. You've essentially reinstated a poll tax, requiring somebody to pay a fee before they can vote. This is a problem looking for a solution. People ought to be encouraging people to vote, not denying them the right to vote. And I think the Republicans need to step up and acknowledge exactly what they're doing. They are trying to win elections by denying people a vote. In Virginia, it's so restrictive that we're clearly worse than 40 states, and only 4 states are as bad as permanently disenfranchised people. This would make Virginia the absolute worst. All other states at least allow the governor to reinstate rights. We would be number 51 out of 50, counting the District of Columbia, 51 out of 50 states, worst in terms of access to voting. We can do better than that. This does not help. It hardly helps those nonviolent, and certainly hurts those with violent records. Let me call on my friend and next congressman from the 4th Congressional District, Don McEachin, to continue the conversation.
Thank you, Congressman, and thank you, Susan, for bringing us all together. Is it just me, or does anyone on the call feel like it's Groundhog Day? You know, Governor McAuliffe tried to restore the voting rights to marginalized Virginians, and Republicans do everything in their power to stop him. When the governor issued an order that restored the rights of over 200,000 ex-felons, the Republican Party acted as if the world had ended. The governor's actions are in line with the voting restoration in 40 other states. Virginia Republicans deliberately created a campaign of hysteria and misinformation because they're afraid of this new voting group. And it really says something about the Republican Party. They would rather fight to make democracy smaller rather than enlarge it. You know, to quote the governor, and he said it so well, why don't you just go out there and earn their votes? Why don't you compete for their votes rather than try to keep them from voting in the first instance? And now we see this proposed constitutional amendment from Senator Norman that would take away the hope of some Virginians to ever participate in our democracy again, no matter how long ago the crime may have occurred, and no matter what they may have done after that crime. That's just unjust, and the Republicans know it. You know, all the world religions talk about redemption and forgiveness, and the Republican Party prides itself on faith values. And then time and time again, we see instances like this, which just speaks to the hypocrisy of their position. You know, it's apparent that the Republicans will do whatever it takes to shut down Governor McAuliffe and to maintain one of the last vestiges of Jim Crow in Virginia. I am hopeful that the Virginia General Assembly will ultimately reject this, and I know the people of Virginia will reject this if it makes it to the ballot. Thank you, and I'm going to kick it back to Susan.
Thank you, Senator McEachin and Congressman Scott. What we've heard and seen from Virginia Republicans is that they don't want certain people voting. It's that simple. There is no question that Governor McAuliffe satisfied the court's rulings, and the Republicans are clearly too blinded by their partisan ploys to see that. The Republicans will continue their fear-mongering and partisan attacks, while Democrats will continue fighting for the precious right to vote for all Virginians. We thank you for joining us today, and I hope everyone has a happy, great, and safe Labor Day weekend.